Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another session of our Disciples Talk, where we come together to discuss the Word of God. You got with me Rosalind White, James Rayner, myself, Jerome White. We are all members of Jesus Peace Ministries, where our pastor is Apostle Dr. James W. McGrady Jr. On Saturday mornings at 10. Thank you for joining us. We come together to discuss the Word of God, give you different aspects of it and how it's related to us in our lives and with our experiences. For a preach word on Sunday mornings at 10, if you have time available, you can catch our pastor coming forth with the preach word of God. Go to JesusPeaceMinistries.org. We're continuing our discussion. We last left off talking about Joseph as he's in the land of Egypt, and he recently had shared with Pharaoh or given him Pharaoh an interpretation of his dreams. We talked about Joseph starting out a dream and being elevated by God to now interpret dreams. And not only did he interpret Pharaoh's dream, but he gave him a plan. And when Joseph gave Pharaoh that plan, Pharaoh acknowledged the wisdom that Joseph had and the fact that he believed God was with Joseph. So Pharaoh appointed him to be over everything. In fact, he made him second in command. He said, he could rule over everything except his house. So he gave him rule over all of Egypt, of all the people, and of course, over the things that was going to transpire through the area of interpretation of the dreams of 7 prosperous years and 7 years of famine. So last time we were talking, we were just going into the area where the famine was hitting the land, and Joseph went forth with the plan that he had, and he was gathering up things and storing up corn in all the cities. And then, as the 7 years of famine were approaching, we see that I think we left off where his brothers came to visit him, uh, and they did not recognize him. So we had a little discussion about why the brothers may not have recognized him, and when there's a saying that says, "When in Rome, do as the Romans do." The Bible talks about us submitting ourselves to the laws of the land. So we attributed Joseph not being recognized by his brothers because he started to look like Pharaoh. Roz, that is terrible. Pharaoh had given him a wife um, who happened to be, I guess, one of the Egyptian priests' daughters. So he tried to keep it, spiritual to a degree, I guess. But, that may be a discussion for today. Just giving a quick recap of where we were. Um, we're going to open up the floor to, whatever you guys have been enlightened with throughout the week, what questions you may have or what comments you want to make. So the floor is all yours. Nobody? Okay. Well, we're going to continue on where it says what Joseph is doing with his brothers, because when we left off and they came to get this corn, to try to keep himself hidden from them or unrecognized by them, he went through an area where he started calling them spies, and somewhat I think James was speaking to the fact that there might have been a little bit of not remorse, a little bit of revenge in Joseph, where now he's threatening to imprison his brothers because he wants to call them spies. That they didn't come just to buy corn; they came to see what was going on in Egypt, trying to figure out if there's any weaknesses in their armor, um, and see if they could take information back somewhere. So Joseph claims that, but um, I don't know if James, you want to add anything else to that. But my thought to that would be that this had been something that was revealed that in the 7 years of famine, as he stored up his corn, people were going to be coming from all over to try to gather up or try to buy things, which is, another highlight that I like to stick on that again. We talked last week when you can have a whole lot of stuff, but the one thing you're lacking, you want to give up what you got for the one thing that you're lacking, even though what you have will also sustain you. So they're coming to buy corn. They got money. They got food or fruit. Um, you know, they got stuff, and yet because they don't have this corn, they traveling to go get it, and they're willing to give up what they have for it. So I don't know, James, you got any comments on that point, or Roz? Just want to open it up on that at that point.
Yes, sir. Given thought from last week, what we have to identify with that is uh, my dad was a farmer and we had uh, chickens and pigs and everything. And we must realize they're in a famine now. The land is desert. There is no uh, seed in the ground because there's a drought. And what we have to understand is the animals themselves need corn to sustain themselves, not just Joseph and his family. But if you don't feed chickens corn, they're gonna die. If you don't feed hogs or cows, they're gonna die. So when they came, they had cattle, true. But if they don't get nourishment themselves, because this famine for 7 years now, a couple of days without eating. But after a while, by and by. So let's say all you eat is meat. Meat is good, but eventually those cows gonna start getting sick from lack of nourishment, which means now the meat is no good.
Mm.
So you have to look at that. It ain't just for them, it's for their cattle. And they had a lot of cattle. But that's how they sustain themselves. So they're looking at it from a perspective. We also need this corn or this wheat, and so does these animals. Now, Joseph, like you said, pretty much, he recognized them, but we got to realize it was a lot of years between the time when they sold Joseph into slavery and when they seen him again.
Yeah.
Like it until today. You can stay away from home for so many years. You go back home and people may not recognize you.
Yeah, yeah, true.
And so
People.
sometimes, we recognize people that don't recognize us because it's been a while since, we've seen each other. But Joseph would surely recognize them jokers. And it's hard to forget people that do you wrong. I said it before, I say it again. When a person owe you finance, don't care
Mhm.
how many years it's been, you gonna remember they still owe you some money. And they'll walk right past you like they don't even know you.
Mhm.
Them. And so when Joseph sees his brother stand in line, and I'm using from a human's perspective, I will be somewhat ticked off. Not that
Okay.
they did me wrong and they don't recognize me. But Joseph goes like, well, why would they be spies? Everybody's coming for the same thing. Now, all these people that's coming, they
Yeah.
issued to him weights and this and that. Why is he single out his brother as being spies? And they don't even know him. Which led me to believe he still got some animosity, some goodness. The Bible say the heart is deceitful and wicked. Who can know the thoughts thereof but the Lord? So you can have bitters in your heart that can affect the decisions that you make. Good or bad.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, you know, and then I also, see the other side of this, because um again, going back to those 13 years that had transpired or had had passed, since Joseph had left or his brother had sold him into bondage. So people may not recognize you. That's one level. When your family don't recognize you, that's a whole nother level. Now, if Joseph could recognize them, it had to now be something about Joseph, something different about Joseph, because I'm sure there was some similarities that they may have seen. But again, I liken it to the fact that, in Egypt, they had, the things they wore coverings on their head, and, you know, to a less, degree, makeup, that covered their face, eyeliners around the eyes, so a person didn't look, you know, if you hadn't seen a person in 13 years, if they start putting on makeup and everything else, you may not recognize them. And that's what I attribute that to, that they didn't recognize him, because out of 10 of them, none of them could recognize him. Not Reuben, not Judah. Come on. So, um, but what you say is valid. You know, um, all of these things could be true. Again, the animosity, you know, being spiteful, wanting to get a little, dig in on them. I'm sure all of that was going on in his mind, but we got to come back to what Joseph was also trying to find out about his dad, but also about his brother. So he couldn't just give away stuff that now could have them thinking who this guy is. So he still wanted to hide himself from them, even as he's trying to gain information from them and also trying to get to see his brother. So all of that comes into play. All of that, I guess feeds into him claiming them to be spies, because like I said, everybody coming from all over, you know. Egypt is ruling the world right now. Everybody a spy, if you want to call anybody a spy. And at the same time, Egypt wasn't being threatened. But what I loved about what you said, James, was, and that was my ignorance, about what the cattle have to eat, and you know, what your animals survive on. I had no clue. I guess the only animal I really think about is a pig that eats anything and everything. So, again, my ignorance in that area. But I got to come back with something now, because there comes a point when they even give that up. But that we're gonna get, that's further down the road. We're gonna hold it right here for now. This is the onset of the famine, and they want to keep their cattle alive. So appreciate that point and bringing that to my understanding. And yeah, initially, you do what you can to try to keep everything. So that was an awesome point that you brought forth. Me being from the city, I ain't got no clue what any of that was about. So, but now, while Joseph is now working this other plan to get to see his family, um, we gonna see some other folks that forget them. You know, once you got what you want, as you said, people get what they want and they forget what they supposed to do, what they promised to do. So these brothers go back. Number one, they got to give. They don't go back as 10 as they came out. So anyway, I want to stop at that point, and we can continue with that. Just want to get y'all input on what's going on with the brethren now when they go home, or as also Joseph do, put money in their sacks and all this other stuff that he does. That again, he's showing them kindness, but he's showing it from the aspect that he can also, I guess, get revenge on them by now being able to enslave them or imprison them, um, with them believing that they can be accused of stealing. So just throw that out there and see what your thoughts on that.
Well, I agree with you. And he said he sent him back so he could see his brother, um, Benjamin. He wanted to see him. Um, I apologize for that. I don't know what's that about. But so, and I don't think that he really, maybe he wanted to get a little revenge, as you stated, because they had taken, his coat of arms. They threw him in the pit. They left him in there for longer than 3 days and sold him into slavery. So maybe he just wanted them to feel a little bit of what he had gone through. When I think about sometimes the things that how I respond and react to situations, like, did I really need to do that? Or did I really need to kind of feel, a little, just a little bit of what I went through, and that whenever I was reading this, it made me think about, how I've reacted to situations. In my opinion, Joseph, he really took the high road. He only put it in prison for 3 days, after everything that his brothers had put him through. But it just shows us again his spiritual growth, his maturity. The revenge in his heart was replaced with love, and as he grew closer to God, the things that they did to him really didn't matter because he still loved his family.
I'm trying to understand Joseph's mindset to a degree. I do, but I don't. So you can give them the corn or the wheat, and you're going to put money inside the sacks to set them up. Question: if you're in a famine already, and if you got some money, the only place you can be able to spend it at is in Egypt. So that's the only place they got whatever you need is in Egypt. You can have $1 million and you hungry and you ain't got no food. You can go to the place that got food. So why would he give them money in their sacks and then to take back to their home? Realize even if they had the money, they got to come right back to Egypt to spend it. There was nothing for them to buy. It's a phantom in the land. They can't go to the neighbor and buy nothing. That neighbor ain't got nothing. Everybody's going to Egypt. You got money in a sack, but the money ain't gonna do you a bit of good. But I'm gonna be able to spend it in Egypt.
Well, I understand that too, but could it be possible too that was one of the ways, that I know if my brothers had done to me what they did to him, would you give them in their sacks? And they hadn't recognized him, so they didn't really know. Maybe that was just a part of his plan, even the more, if am I going to give you money to, after everything that you've done to me, I'm going to turn around and give you money?
But my question, what's the purpose of the money? They can't spend it nowhere. They came there with nothing, really. If they'd have had money from the start, they could have just paid for the corn and went on about their merry way. But everybody's coming to get some from Egypt because they done stored up for 7 years, which means when all the plenty was going on, I'm pretty sure everybody had to give a little egg. Let's say it's in taxes. We pay 10% or whatever in taxes. But during a phantom time, because they stored up 7 years prior to the famine coming, which means they put more on the people to bring in more than just the 10%. So let's just say that instead of bringing me 10% of your money, because there's a famine coming, I'm going to go ahead and take 15% per household. That way, when the famine comes, we got extra give back to you because we know you're not going to have anything. You know what I'm saying?
Maybe it was part of it. Maybe he was testing them again, their honesty, because he know what they had once been. I just think it was a part of a bigger picture of him. First of all, of them not recognizing him, and then him, testing them somehow. to see what they would do, if they would tell their father what happened when they went back home or what have you.
Okay.
Ain't this a good discussion? But now let's look at this, y'all. They came with money. And what Joseph did was give them back what they came with. Again, he didn't want to take anything from them because the entire life that Joseph had with them, Joseph wasn't trying to take anything from them. Joseph was always trying to give them something. They just didn't want to receive it because they didn't look at him the way that his father looked at him. And whose money was it? Could it be that it was the father's money? And Joseph didn't want to take money from his father?
Could be.
Let me get churchy on everybody. You know, do we take money from our father? And the Bible declares, yes, you have in your tithes and offering. But this ain't about tithes and offering. So we're gonna give back to, you know. So Joseph is returning back to his dad what belongs to him. And he's blessing them for the stuff that he knows they're in need of, giving it to them. So it's not costing them anything. And as you said, Roz, but now there's a little test that's going to be involved in this. Because he sent them back on a mission. Because he kept one of them. Didn't he? Or did they all go back?
Right. And you know, the Bible tells us.
Hold on, Rob.
Yeah, mute me when I'm, yeah, there you go. It tells us that, you know, when they found the money, they didn't celebrate finding, you know, the extra money. They were actually afraid. So before, they probably would have celebrated the money, but we know that now their guilty conscience starting to show up.
Well, and again, it took a while for it to get there. You know, not only did they forget about their promise to Joseph, let me see if I remember, if I got this correct. I just want to make sure I'm right. So was it Simeon that was kept behind? Okay, I don't see exactly the verse, but I think Simeon is the one that stayed behind. So he held on to one of the brothers. Let me see if I got this right.
Yeah, he left
in verse 24.
Simeon behind.
And he
42,
turned
24.
and wept and returned to.
You're on mute.
Okay, that's because you were talking. And bound them before their eyes. So he kept Simeon, sent the others back, sent the money back. So now the brothers go back to the dad. And I think this is what you alluded to, Rob. James, you could chime in on this. So now they're going back. So Jacob has to look at the fact of, I sent y'all out here to get the corn. Okay. All right. Got you. I've already lost Joseph. It's been 13 years, but I'm still sure that that's still, you know, a pain in the heart. And now, though you come back with corn, you left Simeon, and you tell me that you promised somebody that you're going to take my other beloved child. And why is he a beloved child? Because he's also the other son of Rachel, the one he loved. So now Jacob's feeling a certain type of way now. Now, I'm sure he loves all his children, you know. But it's something about, when you've been waiting a while with the woman you love to have a child, and then you get man children, and then something happens with them, you know. And I don't know, the difference between, you know, loving your children to that degree based on the woman that has them. Um, I can't identify with that. I don't have testimony on that behalf. But with Jacob, there is a clear difference in love that he had more for the children of Rachel than children of Leah and the other maidservants. Now, when we look at this, we also have to understand that it's not only Rachel being the woman that he loved, but it's also because Rachel was barren. And then the Lord opened up her womb. So you have to look at the miracle that Jacob is understanding and realizing that took place, where God is showing favor upon these children. And Jacob is just now showing a greater love unto them. Could it be because of the greater love he had for Rachel? Could be. I want to look at it from the aspect of, because of what God had did, he wanted to embrace them even the more. Y'all thoughts?
What you said, true, as far as uh 7 years or years had to work for Rachel because he wanted her, he loved her when he saw her, and how he got tricked, had to work an extra years to get her. And it's true, you wait for something long that you really want, you start appreciating it more. It's more closer to your heart. And we got families out there that got, step brothers and sisters, and dad may not have married that mother or that one or this and that, but we still bloodline brothers and sisters. But we are not treated the same for some reason. There's still a division. And even though that's my dad, but we got different moms, or he didn't marry you, so therefore this and that. A lot of families got that. There's favoritism that runs in every family to a degree. True, we all love our children, all of them. But like I said weeks ago, there's some we favor just a little bit more. Whether it's intentional or unintentionally, it happens. Jacob himself, and I heard people say, no pun, you get it from your daddy. His daddy was a con man. His dad name is Trickster, Supplanter. His dad is in the bloodline. So the trickery that Jacob used against his own brother flows through the same bloodline with Joseph. It's in him to be a trickster. And knowing pretty much what I do believe, and we continue to read this story, he pretty much tried to set them up every chance he got. Every chance he got. And they still didn't know who he was to the end. And when we go a little further, see how he got him the second time, when they put something else in his sacks when they came back. So it's like, you can forgive a person, but truthfully, I doubt if we ever forget. Because we keep it hidden ourselves, We try not to let it bother us. But when somebody has done you wrong, really, really done you wrong, and they really, really did him wrong, and I'm looking like from a brother perspective, the Joker was snitching from years ago, telling stuff. So there's already animosity between the brothers and Joseph because of their age. He was younger than they were. And we know first started reading, he came back telling dad everything they was doing wrong or this and that. Snitching, what we used to call it. And so that's why they got rid of him. because they despised him. His daddy didn't make it no, you know what I'm saying? Why are you gonna have children? Christmas time come, you only buy the youngest one a gift, and the rest of them don't get nothing. I'm putting out with the coat of many colors. Now, I understand the favor. We got this mindset now with certain women. They say, "Hey, these are my kids too. I know they ain't your kids, but you better not bring one bag from McDonald's to feed your child. I got two more here. If you gonna buy one of them something, you best."
Well,
I think it goes a little bit than that, because we know that Rachel was the love of his life. We know that he waited 7 years to marry her, and she was barren. I think all those factors, definitely play into it. But she died in childbirth, giving birth to Benjamin. So when he lost the woman that he loved, he had these two sons that every time he looked at them, it reminded him of her. So they were all that he had left of her, of the woman that he loved the most, after she passed away. So I think that might be, I'm pretty sure that's why he, showed favoritism to them, because, that she was the love of his life, the mother of his two sons. And when she passed away, they were all that he had left of her. And they reminded him both of her. And then when Joseph was sold into slavery, of course, he protected Benjamin even the more, and favored him even the more.
I agree.
Yeah, and I like to look at, and I just want to look at it from this aspect. Again, I can't say that it was, but James, I believe that, again, as you said, like the mamas will say, if you gonna, feed one, you're gonna feed them all. Now, I believe Jacob gave all his children, a jacket, you know, you know, but uh, an outer garment, okay. So I'm sure he didn't leave the other ones out. It's just that Joseph was a little bit different. He was the youngest one, so he needed some colors. you know, the rest of them were kind of boring.
I ain't gonna.
So Jacob saw something special in him. Realized that he liked he was a little vibrant. So he gave him some colors. That's all that was. So, but he gave them all covering because he didn't want none of them, to be cold or go without. So I believe that he took care of all of them. Understanding that, again, at this point, Joseph was the youngest son, so it would be odd that he would do something for Joseph that he didn't do for the other ones, and he had been doing for them. So I don't think he would have stopped. I just think he just did a little something, that stood out more about what he did for Joseph. But the other ones weren't saying they didn't get a coat. They just looked at the fact that Joseph had one of many colors. He got the last one on the rack. And it just happened to be colorful. So the other brothers didn't even want the colors, but because Daddy gave. Anyway, we could look at this thing in a whole lot of different ways. I just like to have fun with it in that aspect. But yeah, when you look at Benjamin and what happened with Rachel, you know, in giving birth, the blessing of giving birth, but also what happened with the blessing in that she lost her life, and that had to be something that weighed heavily with Jacob as well. loving this woman to the point that, wanting to have children. In fact, because, he has so many other children outside of her. But then for her to lose her life giving birth to something that, and I'm sure both of them wanted a child, but, something different about when, you lose your loved one when you're gaining a loved one. That kind of resonates with you. So, there's a lot of different aspects that goes on to that, and with that we have to look at as a people, and try to look at how God views us, you know, as his children, and what it costs for us to be here, you know, because we're here through his son who gave his life for us. So when God's looking at us, and now wanting all of us to fulfill some things, and it's not that God doesn't do for all of us. And I love the fact that he does some, a little extra for a few of us, but do some of our brethren get upset, because God winks at us, even though he's giving everybody a touch. I mean, yeah, let's keep it real now. When we look at it, can we identify with, Jacob and the boy?
Sorry, I was on mute. I was saying absolutely. I think that's just the part of human nature. You can tell when someone is favored over you, or someone is, God touched them a little bit more than you, and you start to wonder, okay, so what are they doing to get that, or what am I not doing, or what do I need to be doing? Of course.
I mean, that's one thing I've never done, and truthfully. I never gotten jealous or envious of how God is doing somebody else. Because I realized that if I wanted to get that same blessing, I got to put in some work. You can't, if you work in a natural job and you lay out of work 2 days out of the week, and you're supposed to work 5, at the end of the week, how do you expect your paycheck to be the same as this person here if you didn't put the work in? It's the same concept. If you're not seeking God, like, or praying to God or fasting for God like somebody else is doing, why would I, knowing that I ain't doing the work that they doing, get upset or envious when God blesses them?
Exactly. And which is why I said, what am I not doing? Or what do I need to be doing as a person?
But you know what, though, Roz? We already know what we ain't doing.
You're right.
Already, mature Christian already know where they're short at in their life. They've already got the example of what it takes to get there to the next level. The problem is they don't want to sacrifice and really put in the work. You know what I'm saying? They'll tell you, it don't take all that. But how do you know what it takes? And so therefore they get comfortable where they're at. Everybody, like, ain't got the same level of measure of faith. Everybody ain't at the same level. There are some people that's satisfied just being at their level. They don't want to graduate going off to college. They did 12 years, and I'm tired of education. But with that comes, okay, when the time to get you a job, if your level of education don't meet what they're requiring, you can't get mad or upset because that person decided to go to school for another 4 years and you didn't. Same thing in the house of God. God knows your heart, thought, and your intent thereof. We got, the Bible tells us how God will bless us. But there's certain requirements that we got to do in order for that to happen. So if you're not making no extra effort and you want to stay in the first grade all your life, and wonder why you're getting first grade gifts and presents when everybody else getting car keys and cars and houses. You can't get upset. No, God, like, he don't reward bad behavior. We say it all the time, I'm not gonna reward bad behavior. Let's put it on the spiritual side.
God does.
God rewards our behavior, and we're not trying to do better by him.
Whew. Well, James, you done said a mouthful. Um, and far be it for me to say that I am a man without sin. So I know what you mean when you say reward bad behavior,
Sir,
but I know I'm not good. so 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 in that aspect,
sir,
yes. So in that aspect, you know, I think based off what we do, see, not that it shadows or takes away our bad, but when we mean to do good and we mean to again glorify God, we don't always make the right decision, but if our intent is good
yes, sir.
and we continue to push forward, towards the mark for the prize of the high calling, you know, then those rewards come, those blessings come. And yeah, you got those that you got two different areas of people. You got those that know they ain't doing. That don't mean they still ain't gonna be jealous, mad, and upset with you. They still gonna be that way. But then you got those that's doing what they want and they believe God wants out of them. That's also not getting it. And they still gonna be mad with you. So you got two different classes of folks that are missing the mark. One because they just ain't even trying to, the mark, and the other because they're only going after their own mark and not the mark God has set for them. And the church is full of them. You got a lot of people that's operating, working in areas that God didn't intend for. I'm not trying to get anybody to stop working. So please, y'all, keep your hand to what you're doing. But find out what it is that God wants you to do as well. Because as you said, James, people get complacent. They get comfortable in doing just what they like doing. Showing up every Sunday, working on a certain ministry or an auxiliary or whatsoever, and they think that's it. No, because God has placed more in you. You just don't want to take it out of you or give it out of you because you don't want the other requirements or the other accountability that comes with it. But that's what God is expecting out of you and requires out of you for what He's put in you. So, when we dealing with, the church and people and Christians, we got to look at all of those aspects. This it's not just one side where, they just getting, the same plain coat. Wow, others, are getting us, a coat specially made, tailor made, the slim fit, why, we all got coats, God, because some people's coats look a little bit better on them. Don't get upset. You got to start exercising some stuff to get the coat that now you may desire. Don't take the coat off the one you jealous or you mad with. That's again, the father is going to be upset. In this case, Jacob was upset with his boys. You know how God gonna feel about it, because He says, "Touch not my anointed, do my prophets no harm." So He ain't gonna be pleased that you even thinking against His man or woman of God. Y'all good? Okay. All right. So we were at I think y'all talked enough where we got to the point where they had gone back home. We didn't go through all the details. We don't need to go through all the gory details. The first time they went back home, gave Jacob the news, and I didn't look at how long they were there. But They didn't go back till they was out of corn. so, so, so now Joseph gave them enough, to sustain them for a good period of time. I would think years, because again, we're going through harvests, and you're feeding livestock. Now it could be a shorter period of time, could be, I don't know, but I think he would have gave them enough to sustain them for a good period of time. In fact, because nobody's taking that trip, to have to come back next week and do the same thing over again. So that's just my mindset on that. So I'm just gonna, attribute years to have accumulated and passed, when the light bulb goes back on. We need more corn. They don't forgot about Simeon. You know, being in prison. They eating well and everything else, and they got all their money. They got the corn. I don't know how they felt about Simeon, but I'm sure right now he going through a Joseph experience. But then, they come to a point where they're out of the corn again. And now Jacob is sending them back. And, the brothers got to remind them, well, Dad, we can't go back without Benjamin. And, he's reluctant, but he needs his corn. Again, James, I appreciate you sharing with me, the thought of, the farmer, the cattleman, and all of that. Again, it's gonna take a while for that to sink into me. I'm still giddy over the fact that they giving all of this, up for corn. But anyhow, the reality is that they go back for some more corn. Go ahead.
All that a man would give for his life. Oh, if you're about to die, if you in a famine, you would give what it takes to get some resources.
Sir, I got meat all around me.
Yes, sir, your meat eventually gonna need something to.
Eventually.
Exactly.
Yeah, I ain't there yet. I ain't there yet.
I understand what you're saying.
I can get all the protein I need.
But ain't too many people eating meat without bread.
I don't mess with too much bread.
Most people, they eat bread with their meat.
Well, I guess I've been set apart. I'm set aside.
Yes, sir.
But okay, but anyway, they're going back, to get some more corn, and they taking Benjamin with them. I don't know if y'all want to chime in at this point, or do you want me to go through? Y'all know it. Y'all go through it.
I thought it was interesting how Judah was the one that was pleading with his father to take Benjamin, and he was the main one that wanted to get rid of Joseph. That's a story in of itself, how God can change, our hearts, and he can change the situation. Like I said, Judah was the main one. Like, hey, I don't like you, I'm getting rid of you, throw you in the pit, sell you, or whatever. But when God deals with you, when God shows up in the situation, he had to change his heart. He was the one like, hey, we got to take Benjamin. I'll protect him. I'll do A, B, C, and D. He followed on the sword to take him back.
Well, Roz, you got to look at the fact that he had a motive. Because the motive is he's making all these promises because he's looking to come back with something. He's looking to come back with some corn. He hungry. James just said, all that a man have will he give. So he making these empty, I ain't gonna say empty, but he's making promises just so he can go back with what is wanted or have been required of them, because he's looking to get what they need back. He ain't going back just, to say, hey, he's talking real good right now. I don't know that if, you meet, individuals in the run of the day that talk good and back up nothing they saying. Y'all probably don't run into none of that. And you know, in my line of work, I run into a whole lot of folks that talk a good game, and I already know they can't do nothing of what they say. But I have to listen to them and hope that along the way, as with the lepers, you know, the Lord said, you know, there'll be a change in them. You know, I'm always hopeful, but until I see the change, I know what I've experienced with them. So I don't leave it just to them. I also have to put something else in place because I know that they're not going to accomplish or won't accomplish what they said they're going to do. And I would be at fault to believe it when I already know their track record shows me otherwise. Again, I can hope for the best, but I better prepare for the worst. Okay, everybody good? Okay, so with this now, yeah, Judah praise is leading the way. Dad, don't worry about it. Put them in my hands. I got them. You know, I'm not gonna let nothing happen to them. This, that, and the other. All right, sounds good. Jacob gives in again because Jacob is, as James said, hungry. If I look out amongst the fields and, and see some stuff going on, I don't know. I don't know how long I can say I'm gonna be hungry. I may not have everything on my plate that I want, but I'm gonna have a full plate. That's just me. But you know, like he said, some a lot of people grew up with bread, got to have bread with their meat and everything else. But again, um, in certain times, you learn to go without certain things. Um, so I don't know how, you know, and this is just the church today, the Christians today, how we can go without taking in certain things that we're accustomed to food wise. You know, how do we get closer to God when the only thing we're consumed with is having everything that we like and we want? And God's steadily trying to strip some stuff away from us that ain't good for us or that we don't really need. We just want. You know, we can call it a famine, we can call it a fast, we can start out with the F and the A and just keep it moving. You know, it's the same thing. A fast is a famine that you're putting yourself in, but it's again to build yourself up in Him. Can we really do that? Do we want to do that? How long can we do that? You know, Pastor was talking this week about, you know, them 40 days. You know, can we go 4 days? You know, let's just start with 4. You know, but if you don't exercise and build yourself up to it, yeah, your fast is gonna really be a famine. You know, you gonna be famished. You gonna pass out. You know, because you haven't prepared yourself, built yourself up for what you're trying to do. And yeah, you can want to do it for God, but then you'll see something that you're accustomed to that you like having, because the stuff is not gonna be removed from you. And taking everything out of your house just because you're going on a fast, it might work for you, but that ain't. Well, let's leave it. If take it out, take it out. Get on the fast. It'll bless you. But you also got to build yourself up to the point that you can be by something and not let it call you in to partake of it because you're now looking for something greater. So, any thoughts? Okay, so the brothers return back into Egypt. They bring back the money that they found in their sacks because again, now they want to be honorable. They bring back Benjamin because now they want to be honorable. And I didn't read where there was a specified time to come back. So I'm guessing the time that they do come back is a time that Joseph was expecting, knowing they were going to run out of their grain, their corn, after a while. And when they come back, you know, Joseph ushers them in, wants to talk with them, so, now they getting their story together, hey, we found this, and we returning it, so, they trying to, make everything seem right. But did they mention anything about Simeon that y'all saw? Ain't it something that your own brother can be? Well, they forgot about Joseph. Check him for dead right now because again, they sent him off with the Midianites, and um, so then he's not no longer thought of by them. But now Simeon, who you left behind, they don't even seem to mention, as if their only concern is their well-being. And I know sometimes we could be self-centered as a people, but this is what we have to be mindful of, especially as Christians. We have to look out for our brethren. We just can't get consumed with ourselves and our needs and our wants. We got to be concerned about those that are really going through and seeing what aid we can provide to them or for them. Now, if they doing, they know they ought not to do. Yeah, don't put yourself in those situations now. Pray and keep it moving. But when you know that there's some things, especially if God is moving upon you to do, that's when he's looking and expecting you because he's giving you the provision to do. Joseph has rule over all of this stuff. He could take whatever portion he wants and give it to whoever he wants, however he wants. Pharaoh has given that charge to. When the people came to Pharaoh, and we talked about this leadership quality that I liked about Pharaoh. Again, the people came crying to Pharaoh. Pharaoh said, "Go to him. Whatever he say, do. I'll put Joseph in charge." Man, that's a good leader. So Joseph can do whatever he want, however he want, and again, we got to remember, Pharaoh has already declared that if anybody raises a foot or a hand, they're gonna lose a head. So man, he got carte blanche. He can do whatever he want to do, but he's honorable in what he does. Even though, as you had said, James, also a trickster. He's got some other skills, but he's wise with it. So he's doing some good stuff, in what he's trying to do. But again, he's also preparing the way for his family, fulfilling the word. And I'm getting ahead of myself when when saying this, but remember, God spoke to Abraham about what was going to happen. Pass it down to Isaac, down to Jacob. Now Joseph is the one that's carrying this out. So he still has to find a way to pull his family in. And he's reluctant to do it just by revealing to his brothers who he is right now, because he still has to find a way to get everybody in it. I'm sure if he revealed himself, well, y'all answer me. If Joseph revealed who he was right now, how do you think the brothers would react?
I don't think they will be repentful at all. They will be happy, but as far as like And more so, they'll probably be even more envious of him. If the of men of color called him Joker to trip out, and they know they see the Joker now standing there as a leader and the prophecy that was spoken is not being fulfilled.
Oh.
Well, now they have to bow down to him, not know who he is.
And they've already bowed.
So now he shows himself there. This still got to bow. You know, Joseph, though, I like how he's, most people like me say, I told you Joker so. But see, that I would have got him when they first came. I would have sent him back.
And that's where I was going. I think that they would be fearful once they realized that it was Joseph, because they know that he was second in command to Pharaoh. So he could do anything he wanted to do with them at that point. So I think that they would have been very fearful of him. All the jealousy and all that stuff would go out the way. They were probably trying to beg for their lives at that point.
What goes around comes around.
Well, it's a good thing we come with two cheeks.
Exactly.
And I'm gonna leave it at that point. We're gonna pick up next week, with this area with Benjamin now being with Joseph. And again, what Joseph does, a little bit of the trickery, but again, getting his father, back, or having his father brought to Egypt. So, we'll go through all of that, because giving an overview now of, if Joseph would have revealed himself at this point in time, trying to see how the brothers would react, and then still seeing how they react when he does reveal himself. It's it don't change, from what we're saying, but you would think that, and James, you brought the point back up. But if you remember what I told you this was going to happen. But also the way in which Joseph entreats them, not like I told you so, but to really embrace them, which is what he's always done. So he's responding the way he always has been. Even these 15, 20 years later, he hasn't changed. But that's where we're going to stop right now. We'll pick up next week. We'll bring those discussion points back. Again, this is Disciples Talk, where we come together discussing the Word of God. Again, follow us on Facebook. Follow us on YouTube. Send your comments. We thank you for watching, for joining in with us. And Saturday mornings at 10 o'clock, again, we come discussing the Word. I need a preach word. Sunday mornings, 10 a.m. Catch our pastor, Dr. James W. Jr. Peace Ministries. Go to JesusPeaceMinistries.org for that preach word. We love you. God bless you. We'll see you next week.